the band really is an organization of service. Music for me, it's a gift like anything else. And I feel like it's important to be in service of it. And for the band, do they help the team? Absolutely. But they service so much more than just USC athletics. Is important to me for these students to understand is that you've put in time, energy, and effort. And what this music has done for you, for a lot of them, was it provided their friend circles, a lifetime worth of stories to tell in terms of experience, real world experience of managing a schedule and dealing with a moving target that is this timeline of a day based on a football game. They learn all these important life skills. That's what they get from the program. It doesn't cost them anything. They just get that out of it. That's what it provides for them. So to give back, I think, is important.
Welcome to the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. Your guide on this journey is Amy Silvas. If you're ready for the secrets to an abundant life, hit that subscribe button now, and let's get started.
Secrets to Abundant Living podcast listeners, welcome. Boy, do I have a treat for you. You guys have no idea what's coming your way. I am Amy Silvas. I am your host and the founder and principal of Silvas Capital. And I have Dr. Jacob Vogel here with us. I know, just so excited. You can tell, we're dressed a little bit differently. Our backgrounds are a little bit differently. Yeah, we've got something in common. I think a lot of our listeners are familiar with our love and passion here as well. So let's get started. Dr. Vogel, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, Amy. It's fun to be here.
This is really cool. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. I think a lot of people probably recognize you and your name, but...
Ooh, I've been recognized, I'm already going to deviate from the, from the pattern.
Yes.
But I'll introduce myself first. I have a very, I think it's funny, but like a celebrity sighting story for myself. But hi, Dr. Jacob Vogel, fairly newly minted doctor. I finished it in 2022, so it's still growing on me. Don't choke on anything though. I will not be able to save your life. So I'll sing you a song while you depart this earth. But Jacob Vogel, I'm here. I'm the band director here at USC, the director of the Spirit of Troy. I've been with the organization since 2009. I was brought in 2009 as a teaching assistant, as an assistant arranger, writing music. That really was my gateway into the program, but very quickly found my way to be an assistant director. I was hired full-time as the associate director in 2016, and then in the January 1 of 2021 is when I took over the program in earnest as the director. So I've just sort of laddered my way up through the organization. I've been teaching music here in Southern California for a long time. I went to Chapman University for my undergraduate education, did my master's and my doctorate here at USC. That's another reason that I ended up here doing this with the band. I worked for the Orange County School of the Arts. I taught courses at Chapman University. I worked for a private Lutheran high school in Torrance for a few years. J. Sarah Catholic High School. Look at there. We've got both sides, the Catholic and the Protestant side going on for a semester. I taught some drums down there. And I really did, in sort of that musician lifestyle, I really freelanced for a long time, but teaching. And so I managed in the early years of my career, I called it freelance teaching, where I was just bouncing around, picking up part-time teaching gigs here or there. And it really wasn't until 2016 when I was hired here full-time that I really kind of settled into this single track. So that's a very rough shot. I'm sure we can talk more as things go on if you have any other questions, but that's sort of the career where I ended up. But I've been at USC for a very long time. We're getting close to, we're at over 15 years here, so...
I had no idea, candidly. I didn't realize it. I knew you'd been there for a period of time, but almost 15 years. That's fantastic.
I've been in the shadows. I've been behind the scenes.
I guess. Well, and I've got a funny story to reveal when I first met you that you probably didn't remember because why would you? But tell us the celebrity sighting just while that's...
Oh, so when I'm on campus, if I'm on campus or if I'm at an event, people... even if they don't recognize me, I'm in the outfit, right? And I'm with the band. They're like, oh, that's the band director. And what's his name? And they'll figure it out. But I was I live in the San Gabriel Valley. I live in Glendora, and but I do a lot of my shopping in San Dimas. So that's far. This is almost 40 miles away from campus. And I'm at, of all places, the Hallmark store. This was this past winter. I'm in a Hallmark store, and we're buying a gift, either cards or something. I don't know. I'm there with the whole family. We're there.
Yes.
And I get to the counter. And the woman, the checkout lady, she goes, okay, do you have an account with us? I said, I have no idea. Well, let's check it. Let's see if we got it. And she was like, okay, it's Vogel, right? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Like, how do you know that? She's like, oh, I just, you're that band director at USC, right? I'm like, oh, I go, I am that band director. I go, were you in the band? You have a child in the band? She's like, nope, I'm just a big fan and I just know who you are.
Oh,
and that's the only person just in earnest who knew who I was.
wow.
No reason to know. No child in the band. She didn't go to USC.
Really?
No, she was just a USC football fan, and she recognized, she's like, you are the band director. And I don't wear USC clothes all the time. It seems like I do, but I'm probably wearing like a Baby Yoda shirt. Who knows? But that was, my ego was certainly, was inconsolable, not inconsolable. I was out of control the rest of the day. Jessica couldn't stand having me around me for funny then. But tell me your story when we first met.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's okay.
That day.
Yeah. Why would you? Well, yeah, but first of all, I mean, as a director of Hollywood's Band, I guess it kind of makes sense you're stepping into your celebrity status. So that story is fantastic.
I don't know about that, but it was very funny. Sometimes people get excited, like, oh, I'll wear a USC shirt. What do you do? Oh, I teach. I work at USC. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I teach music. What music? Well, I run the marching band. Like, I love the band, and that. I've had ice cream melt at the supermarket because I've been stuck in conversations, which is fine. It's part, it's part of the job. You have to take it in stride and just get different ice cream. It's okay.
You're a good sport. You're a good sport. Okay, so I first met you with Husband Joel.
Husband Joel.
Proper name. There was the annual fundraiser in August in Orange County. I forget the gentleman's name.
Yeah, Steve Craig's home.
Yes. So you had just taken over and you were with Dr. Bartner at the very, at the very entrance, shaking hands, whatever. And so this was August of 21. All of us had been, well, myself included with my lung issue, hermetically sealed in our homes. Yes, exactly. And, we're getting ready for the first real football season back. Yeah. And so, we said hi, very, very casual. But I proceeded to act like maybe a third of my age once the band came out. I was dancing, I was singing along, and your glorious parents-in-law, Renee and Jim, come up to me about halfway through the performance and they go, hey, you seem like you're having a really good time. Were you in the band? No. Do you have a kid in the band? No. And I had to kind of admit, I'm just an enthusiast. I'm like,
love it.
Really?
Love it.
And that's when the friendship with your family started. And
that's cool.
Jessica but it's a funny story how much joy you bring to other people, what you attract, just in terms of fandom there. I know.
No, I love it. I love it. I appreciate it. And I remember did I call you out at all? I may not have. I don't know.
No.
But no, I do. That first event, it's funny. I remember because we had students in the band playing that day who I knew from the pandemic. They did Zoom band. So Jacobo Herrera in particular, who's a drum major for 2 years.
Yeah, drum major.
So this was his first event ever playing with the band, was the Hollywood Bowl performance we had done a couple weeks prior.
Wow.
So the first time he puts on a uniform is to come play with the band with the LA Phil. So very formative, very much like Inside Out core memory for him, right?
Yes.
But then that event, like I knew him. He was one of those students who really, and talk about abundance, like positivity. He was always logged in to our band rehearsals via Zoom. He rarely had his camera on, but it's fine. He was there, right?
Okay,
so he was some way checked in. And so seeing him there, I'll never forget. I think that event, I introduced some of the students. And
I remember.
think his was the one, I took his helmet off and said, look how bad this helmet looks. We need to raise money to buy new helmets.
Good.
When I turned and looked, I had been talking to him. I knew his name, but because I'd only seen him maybe twice in my life, I remember I turned around and I'm looking at him and he could sense the fear in my eyes. And he goes, Jacobo. And I go, Jacobo. And triggered it for me. Like,
good improvisation. Yeah, exactly. He's such a good guy.
Very memorable event. We're doing that event again. So August 25, come on down. We'll see you.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's like a real podcast. I'm putting plugs.
Good. Oh, I'm going to have you plug the heck out of this. Absolutely. I love it. Well, let's talk about what abundance means to you. I know we've talked a little bit about this podcast and, the fact that our society, culture, a lot of us are taught that, hey, if you want your life to be great, you need to make money and money is the end all be all. Obviously, you've cultivated what seems to be some incredible abundance in your life. I'd love for you to share with the listeners what that looks like for you. What does abundance mean?
Sure. Well, for me, it breaks down to a couple of things. And it is hard. It is difficult to kind of, the grass is always greener, right? And so you're looking and you're like, okay, my house is like this, but their house is like this. And it's like, but my children are like this, but theirs are like this. And so there's, it's easy to get caught into that. And I'm happy we're having this conversation today because I was a little, not down in the dumps, but, thinking about things and running through it. And it's like, okay, this will be nice with Amy to have a positive day of sort of reflection on what's going on. And so for me, I like to look at, I kind of think about sort of maybe three areas of my life, right? There's the family piece, right? There's the music piece, which is a huge thing, which also ties into my career, as it were. And then sort of like the hobby piece and like the things I like to do when I'm not doing those other things, right, that are going on. And I think there really is a lot of abundance in all those areas. So if I break it down, I look at the family. I'm really fortunate in the fact that I have, both of my parents are still with me. They're still alive and kicking. And my brother lives right down the street from them. So they're very close. So anytime I go to my hometown, if I'm visiting mom or I'm visiting my brother, they're essentially, we're always together. And growing up, family was really important because we were a small family. It was just me and my brother, mom and dad. And I'm not going to say we weren't antisocial. Like we were a very social house. We were the house, like if my buddy Dave, who's also a music teacher, his mom was my junior high music teacher. But if Dave just came over, like this was fine. We were that house. So if any of my high school friends, especially in band, because we were, mom and dad drove on all the band trips. My dad would tow the trailer with the percussion equipment. Like they were very involved in what we had going on.
Yeah.
And I think that involvement that's probably my earliest understanding of an aspect of your life that is maybe, more abundance in a certain area. But when you look at your friends around you, it's like I had friends who their parents would go on vacation without them. Maybe they'd go to Cabo or they'd go do like a very adult centered thing, which is fine, which is great. But then maybe they would go do like the motorcycles or the Honda Valley stuff on the weekends. And so that was the trade-off, is that they had this very singular weekend activity they did, but quote unquote summer vacation, that was like a mom and dad thing. Where for us in the summer, my parents would ship me and my brother off to my grandparents' house up in Northern California. And we would stay there for just the two of us with my grandparents, probably for a month. And then my parents would drive up and then they'd stay with us for another 2 weeks or a month. And then that whole time we'd be water skiing, we'd be hiking, we'd be visiting Mount Shasta, Mount Lassen, going to Bernie Falls, like doing just all this stuff, really a 2-month-long summer camp every year. But we were always together as a family. We did things in our quartet. My parents were at every baseball game, every youth group event, got Boy Scouts. My dad was the scout leader, the troop master, the whole thing. So they're just very involved. And I realized early on that involvement in the family, like being present as a cohort, that was something that we had that not a lot of my friends had. And there's a reason that my friends came to our house, because my parents were those people, right? They were the ones drawing people in. But then also, how lucky am I that I meet Jessica, we start dating, we get married, and her parents are kind of in that same ilk, right? They just find people and they just get their arms around them and bring them in very similar ways. And so I'm very lucky that I have, both sides of the coin are very positive. I had great relationships with both sets of my grandparents growing up. But later in life, I learned like there was some pretty rocky friction, which I think is true in either, in most sort of scenarios. And then I find out that maybe there was some friction on my in-laws side too, between the varying grandparents. But the fact that I have these two very positive influences for myself, but then really it's for my children, right? It's their grandparents that they get to interact with and have these great relationships with. So that's like the first pillar is like that family piece of the story. That's
Love
important.
it. Love it. Yeah, that is so powerful. As someone who was brought into the fold with Jim and Renee, like You guys are so nice to me. You barely know me. I'm like, I can't imagine how they do this with so many people, but it just creating those relationships are just invaluable, aren't they? I mean, you can't fake them. There's no shortcut. You can't buy them. They're just something you have to invest in, and they're kind of part of who you are. And I love to hear that you recognize that with your parents. You're obviously setting that up for your kids, and that's really special.
Well, it's being social, and I think that's a skill set. You know, I look at now I'm going to sound like an old man yelling at cloud, right? The youth of today, right? The way we communicate has changed, right?
Big time.
And you and I are of a generation where we've now adopted this new method of communication, but we bring the old ways with us, right? We got out the old part of it, and you know, and I think you're really good at, you know, the Instagram, the Facebook, the messaging, the whole thing. I am the absolute worst. I'm a terrible text messenger. Like poor Jessica, she'll send me this written essay about how the day was, the kids are doing, and what am I going to do? I'm pulling my hair out, and I'm like, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
I'm not built for that per se. And so I'm kind of stuck maybe too much on the other side of that hill. But I think it really, it comes from this idea of, you know, being out there and being, not necessarily being an extrovert, but knowing that to build relationships, you have to communicate and speak and talk and get to know people.
Yes.
And that was my parents were like that. You know, Jim and Renee are like that. You know, Jess is like that. It's exciting to me to get to meet people and know people and understand, you know, learn a little bit about their stories and where they're coming from, what they're doing. And sometimes it brings perspective, sometimes it brings comedy, or sometimes it brings just, you know, something to remember. So it's always fun. It's always a good time.
What a great attitude. I'm sure you have to have that, as you said, as you are increasingly accosted by fans as the director of Fleetwood's band.
I don't know why they come. I'm not doing anything. Like, it's so funny to me, especially on game day. Like, it's more, how do I think about it? It is like conducting in the sense that, but I'm really not, like, I'm not karate chopping the air, and sometimes I'm doing it just for fun for myself. But it really is, it's almost like it's almost like being a tugboat, right? The band is this giant cruise ship.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of like poking at it this way to get it into the harbor or whatever it's doing. But the students do all the work. They're the ones sweating, and I mean, I'm sweaty too.
Yeah.
They're the ones sweating and hitting it and dancing and jumping and cheering and doing the whole thing. And I'm just sort of like the guide. I'm like the Sherpa as they climb the mountain of Trojan victory. You know?
There's the title of the episode. Jacob Vogel, Sherpa. Try climbing the mountain of Trojan victory. That's
I act like I know anything about, you know, the highest mountain I've climbed is maybe Mount Whitney, maybe in my youth, you know.
Exactly. But that's what leadership is, though, right? I mean, it isn't necessarily doing of the thing, but setting the tone, the leadership, the direction, the agenda for the spirit of Troy. So what's your second pillar? I think you said music. Yeah.
So music. So it all kind of interconnects. So my music is probably, of all of the things, like we can, pillars is maybe a fairly decent metaphor, but it's almost like like an archway, and then music is the top of it, right? So if family is another pillar and hobbies is another one, or whatever we want to, or, you know, talk about, this idea of music really pulling everything together, that's really the glue and the through line of my life, top to bottom. That's the one thing that drives it all. And so every and I don't feel like I'm unique. This is true for a lot of people. Like, people love music, right? There are very few people on planet Earth, if you turn on music, like, ew, I hate music, turn that off, right? It just doesn't. That's not necessarily what's going on. And there's, you know, we know that music developed in culture before language because of the power it has on us and how it shapes us in humanity.
Yes.
But with music, for me, it starts early on. You know, some of my earliest interactions that I can remember with my family are centered around music. My dad is a trumpet player, and my dad's big thing was he was very nearly a professional trumpet player. He was right there. It's like Icarus. He flew so close.
Really?
But he was, yeah. So he was in high school. Phenomenal trumpet. I don't think he really realizes how good he was, because we have these old cassette tapes, and you play me like, Dad, you're killing it. Like this
Yeah.
is phenomenal. And it's old squealy cassette and it sounds great. So
Huh.
you must have sounded really great. But my dad was this great trumpet player. He had his claim to fame. He was in a Dixie band. What were they called? The Dixie Cats. Him and his buddies had a Dixie band. They would do gigs around town. And they went on the Gong Show. And he
Stop.
won. It's true. My dad won the Gong Show. He has the trophy. Next time I'm there, I'll send you a picture so you have it. But he's on the Gong Show, wins this Gong Show. And then when he graduates high school, he's kind of aimless. You know, here he is. He's this Inland Empire guy. We grew up in Hesperia, California. Yeah. I mean, here's how small town it was. The house the early years of me living was the same house my dad was raised in.
That's
like
so
that.
cool.
The same OBGYN who delivered my dad delivered me. Like that's the kind of like old timey small town vibe I bring to the table.
I love it.
It's cool. But he had a gig in Vegas with an Elvis impersonator, and they were staying in the hotel. And this was probably, had this panned out, he probably would still be gigging on trumpet in Las Vegas. But I guess the Elvis impersonator got in a fight with the hotel manager. Then all of a sudden, you know, some hotel guys knocked on the door, said, "You guys got to leave. Your gig's over." And that was it. That was the hard start. It was like 2 weeks of playing with this Elvis band, and then boom, gone. And that was it. But what he did is he played trumpet in church with the organist. And so it was the organist, my dad playing trumpet. He did that his entire life. He started when he was 10, and he did it forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And then when my brother was young, he played trumpet first. So my brother started learning trumpet, wanted to play with dad in church. And then it was in middle school that my brother, he gave up on trumpet and went to drums. I gave up on clarinet, went to trumpet, and then I sort of became the one to kind of pick up that mantle. And then I started playing trumpet in church. And so this idea of music and now everything about it, you know, it was a family affair. My dad played trumpet, so I wanted to learn trumpet. I wanted to play music in some way. My brother played drums. That's why I ended up playing drums, is it became a way for me and my brother to play drums together in high school, right?
Wow.
Then my grandmother, my mom's mom, she was a fairly decent pianist, and she had this old Casio keyboard. And then some of my earliest memories is I would go and I would hit the demo. It would just like play something and I would dance to it, or I would play the keyboard. And we have home movies of us doing this over and over and over and over. And so knowing that, you know, grandma played music, my dad played music, I wanted to play music, it just became a part of sort of the DNA growing up. But then music as a means of connection. And so I learned different lessons along the way. So my grandmother played piano. She wrote her own music. She had some songs, some piece that she had written. And in my memory, like in my mind, it's like the most beautiful thing that anyone had ever composed is like out there.
Yeah.
It was probably fine. Because I don't know. It wasn't written down. I have no way of knowing what it was.
Okay.
There's no recording of it. There's no sheet music. It's just something she showed me one day. But what's important is it showed me that you, Jake, you, sir, can write your own music. Like you don't have to just read what's on paper. Music isn't something that someone else gives to you. You can also be a creator of it. And then my dad, so that's like the artistry. My grandmother like opened that up in me. Like,
yes,
go write music, go figure it out. Okay. Well, then my dad was the technician, because to play trumpet in church, you have to transpose. Do you know anything about transposition, musical instruments or anything?
No, please. So
this is way too inside baseball. It'd be like talking about the NASDAQ or whatever. But trumpet is a B flat instrument. So in order for the notes to match what the organ is doing, you have to write the trumpet music up a whole step. So if a trumpet plays a D, then what you hear is a C, right? And all instruments, not all instruments transpose, but there's varying transpositions. French horn transposes different from trumpet, transposes different from piccolo, double bass. They all have kind of their own alto saxophone. They're all their own different transpositions. That's like Reader's Digest version.
Interesting.
So what that means is I have to sit down with the hymnal.
Yes.
And then I have to take that and I have to now rewrite that music. So if it's in the key of C, now I have to write it in the key of D.
Wow.
But then so that's like the technical idea of music, is that it's the X's and O's, it's the mathematics of it.
Wow.
And I was very into science and math as a kid. Those were my favorite subjects in school. So that scratched that itch. It's like, okay, music, there's artistry to it, but there's technique. to music. It's not just willy-nilly, like, and if you get it wrong. And I had a very impactful lesson, which was we were dedicating the church. We were building a new building, and it was the groundbreaking of it. And so we knew the hymns we were playing. I'd practiced them at home. I was ready to go. And we get out there and the organist goes, "Hey, what key are we doing this in?" And I told her, "Oh, in G." Well, that was my music, was in G. So what I really needed to say was in F. So then she starts playing in G, and then I realized that my music doesn't match. So then I just stood there the whole time and I didn't play a note. Oh. And so afterwards, my dad goes, "You told her the wrong key, didn't you?" I said, "I did. I told her G." And he goes, I told you to tell her F. You did not pay attention, and then you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. So you have no one to blame but yourself," which is funny because my dad has never been like, he's never been like hard-nosed brass tacks kind of dad. Like when he has to be, sure, but just hard lessons were never his forte. Yeah. Pun intended for sure. But with music, for whatever reason, when it came to learning about transposition and playing music in church, that, holy smokes, that was very serious for him. And if there was a song, if I didn't know the timing of a song perfectly, like if I didn't know what the rhythm was precisely, if I couldn't describe it, he'd make me describe it. He'd be like, what time signature are you in? How are you playing it? I'd be like, "Well, I just play it with how they're singing it." It's like, no, you have to know what it is. So this idea that music isn't just, you're not just reading it, but you have to comprehend. Yes. Like reading, for him, the reading comprehension of music was of paramount importance. And so that, again, it's these lessons come in and jockey my mind. So now to kind of like fast forward through a lot of other elements, right? It's church became a, not a breeding ground for music, but a place of experimentation. Yes. Because in church is where I was allowed to play piano. I was allowed to play guitar. I was allowed to play drums. And I could grow and develop that musical skill set, which has served me greatly, even here at SC, because when I'm transcribing guitar music, knowing how the instrument works makes it that much easier because I understand it. Then fast forward, I end up majoring in music. Because I'm majoring in music, that's how I meet Jessica, is through music. And it's she came to Chapman for one semester before she transferred to USC.
That's right.
We were in the band, the wind ensemble together. That's how we meet. So it's because of music that we met. It's because of music that we sort of built our relationship, and, we are where we are. Yes. Same thing for her parents. They met in a choir here at USC. Right. Yeah. And so music became this through line that all these very important things in my life, my career, my marriage, my kids, my hobbies, everything, it all starts from those early days of, dancing around the Casio keyboard and playing trumpet with Dad. It all kind of stems back to that moment.
How incredible. How incredible. I love understanding that story. I feel like I know you, but I didn't understand and know these details. And it makes me think about the first kind of pillar that you mentioned about relationships, because music is something that it can be kind of an individual, thing. You talk about writing music, you talk about working on it, maybe playing it for yourself and learning, but it's also this deeply social experience. Highlighted obviously by the joy that you bring, with the marching band. How much does that kind of make you feel fulfilled, that it's a kind of a shared experience or a joy that you give to other people while you enjoy it yourself? Sure, yeah. So music, I'm gonna get on a soapbox a little bit. Please, right? We want to hear. Music is a social. It is a social endeavor. It has to be. Like I said before, music developed before language, and we had songs and chants and rhythm in society before we had formalized language in the way that we know about it. This is just the way things develop. Yeah. But when you look at music for millennia, the only way to get music was to do music. So in order to hear music, you had to put it out in the air. Yes. And the invention of the phonograph ruined society. Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. But recorded. So the minute we started creating high fidelity music recordings, you no longer, in order to hear music, you didn't have to do music. And that is, I think that's very important, because everybody, there's something in our humanity. We're drawn to music. We want to be a part of it. Yeah. But
now, especially and technology is wonderful and I love it. I love throwing on my noise canceling headphones and hanging out on the airplane. It's great to be able to be insular and be sort of within yourself and experience that music personally. I think that is a wonderful experience. But I do believe that has become definitive of musical consumption, is that's how we all do it. And different styles or types of music appeal to that environment in different ways, right? Popular music, as we would call it, like what you hear on the radio, it's mixed and mastered so that if you are in your headphones listening to it, you're enveloped in it. It feels like, it's like, why do people turn the radio on so loud on their car? It's not because they can't hear it. It's because those frequencies, it is physics. It is molecules moving in the air. You feel like not only are you hearing the music, you're inside of the music.
Yes.
You're part of it, yeah? And so that, I think, scratches that itch of the immersive, the social aspect of music when we're by ourselves. But why the band is wonderful, I think, is we create an environment for the students within it, right? They're a part of the band. They are experiencing music together in this one way. But because of the size of the band, the way we play, the type of music we play, the way it's orchestrated, I really strive to create that enveloping sense of presence with the music so that when you're at a post-game show, if you're within sort of the range of the angle of the band, not only are you hearing it, but you really feel it and you're a part of it.
Yes.
And the fact that it's, 300 musicians playing all together and, a couple few thousand fans listening, it becomes a social interaction. And it pulls music out of the individual experience into the group experience, the shared experience. And so it's wonderful to be a part of it and have that, not laud that power over people, but knowing that what these students are doing, that impact we have on people.
Yes.
It's cool. And they may not know they're missing it. That's the other thing, is they don't realize the joy it brings them until they're kind of in it doing it, which is cool.
That makes sense. Well, you also help the football team, which is great too. So it's not just the audience members, right? I mean, y'all are part of the team. You all make sure that the football team wins through your power of
the 12th man, right? Get out there and hammer it to him. Yeah, and it's fun, to help the team. But to me, it's the band really is an organization of service, right? And music for me has always been it's a gift like anything else. And maybe it sounds hokey to say this, but I guess, we're talking about abundance, right? It's like, I feel like there is some musical talent in me. There are abilities that I have that I developed over time, but I took to it faster, right? Probably much in the way that some people are really into science or just way into numbers and like, I'm going to be the most ripping CPA that ever was, just because it appeals to you, And so I had that. Those talents were there, and I've always felt that, sharing or utilizing those talents it's important, and that's why if someone at church is like, "Hey, can you cover this Sunday for a service?" It's like, okay, I'll play piano this Sunday. Or if we're in the office here, and it's like, "Hey, can you show me how to play this thing on the horn?" It's like, okay, bring me a horn, and I'll show you how to do it. It's important to be in service of it, and for the band, yes, do they help the team? Absolutely, but they service so much more than just USC athletics, right? There's all the various teams in the athletic department.
Oh, yeah.
But, they're not calling a fraternity to come and attend a funeral. They're not calling, the chess club to come and be present at a birthday party, right? It's the band that gets pulled around in service of the greater Trojan family. And so I think philosophically, that's what is important to me for these students to understand, is that you've put in time, energy, and effort. And what this music has done for you, for a lot of them, was it provided their friend circles, a lifetime worth of stories to tell in terms of experience, real world experience of managing a schedule and dealing with a moving target that is like this timeline of a day based on a football game.
Right.
Like they learn all these important life skills. That's what they get from the program. It doesn't cost them anything. They just get that out of it. That's what it provides for them. So to give back and perform at those other events, I think is important. And so that's the way I like to think about it. So do we help the team? Yeah, but we help everybody. We help graduates at commencement. We help Amy Silvis's get out of her shell and dance at fundraisers. It all happens.
I love, Dr. Vogel, this sense of overflow that you mentioned of, not just enjoying our own maybe God-given talents and developing them, but this concept of that utilizing them in service, because we just have so much, and there's joy in giving to others, whether it's giving back or sharing in these talents. It's just kind of at a loss for words, but I think that's such an amazing concept that you all and the band really exhibit. So I love that you bring that up. I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the time is going by so quickly. Do you have an extra few minutes to?
I do.
Okay,
Amy,
okay.
I got you in my calendar until 11. So you
Okay.
can edit and trim as much as you want.
Oh, I don't think we're going to do any of that. I just, this is just such a great conversation. Are there any areas in your life that you'd like to cultivate more abundance? I know you're a busy guy. You're very involved with your family. Obviously, the Trojan marching band director. You're not any, is a lot of time and involvement. But what are your thoughts there?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't really have any. I'll call them active hobbies. And what I mean by that is, I do have. I'm very much into film, movies and long form television. Like I'm really digging House of the Dragon right now.
Ooh.
It's pretty intense. But I love film and I love reading about it. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll put on a movie that I've seen a million times, The Martian, for example.
Okay.
And then I'll sit there and I'll have my phone out. I'll be scrolling IMDb. And poor Jessica, God bless her. And I'd be like, did you know that the third key grip, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I'm reading her this trivia. She's like, uh-huh. And like, she doesn't care. Like, she
Love
doesn't have the
Jessica.
same drive to it that I do. But I really, in early parts of my life, I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be in movies is what I wanted to do. And as I found that my skill set was really more musically driven, then I realized, okay, I'm going to be a musician. This makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
But I've always been drawn to the Hollywood, the process. So really, but what I mean by not being an active hobby is like, I don't have anything to show for it other than just a bunch of stuff in my head, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I'm not out there building model planes or golfing or anything like that. But I think, so maybe finding something that I can do probably with my children, just finding some sort of collaborative thing together. Because my daughter's 6,
Yes.
the boys are 4 and 6 months old, so they're growing. My daughter's getting into piano, so I think we're getting close to where we can get to a point where we're making music together. But I find it is odd where, like if Declan, if he's like, hey, I want to play drums. It's like, okay, well now I'm working. Now I'm teaching him music.
Uh-huh.
And so it's kind of weird to think about it that way. But sometimes I feel that way. And so it's like reminding myself he's 4, just let him play the drums. Like quit trying to show him all the things. But then when it does click for him and he asks, hey, can you, what's that? How do I do this? But, he's still at that age where it's very exploratory. So I think that'll be a fun kind of switch, is spending more time with them.
Yes.
But I think overall the big thing is, now that I've been in this position for a couple years, is okay, what are areas that I can get more hands off on and find more time for my family and my home life. And I don't feel like I need another hobby. Like, I don't need to golf. It's fine. I'll save the money. I don't need to do it. Pickleball. I've played pickleball. It's a lot of fun. But again, it's like, these things I don't need, but it'd be great. I was my son's t-ball coach this past spring.
That's right.
I wasn't his manager. I was like, of the 4 coaches, I was like the lowest. I was probably the lowest coach on the totem pole. But the issue is that the other 3 coaches, they all have daughters. And so I think starting this next year, the daughters are all going to go to softball. So now, like, we've built this tight little, you're with these families every week for a few days, this little community, and no one has said anything, but I could feel the eyes, right? When we're at the end of the year party and it's like, all right, well, what are we going to do next year now that all the coaches are going?
Yeah.
And I'm, and it's Declan, he's the boy. And it's like, what are we going to do with all the boys?
Yeah.
And do I feel like I could manage Little League baseball? Probably.
Sounds like fun.
It sounds like tremendous fun, but even this year, I didn't have 100% time commitment for that position. So I think figuring out, are there ways to move things around and set myself up to grow that abundance in that area? That's something that I'm always cognizant of. It's just it's more time with the kids, because it's limited, right? My daughter's 6. she's lived for 6 years. She's only going to do that 2 more times. Then she's going to be 18 and out of here, and she'll be off doing whatever. And so
Wild.
when I put it in that kind of a perspective, it makes it feel like time is really limited. But then, you know, these 6 years took forever. A lot has happened. So what do they say with kids? The days are long, but the years are short, you know?
Yes. It makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that would be an area that I'm really focusing on. I don't need hobbies. I don't need anything crazy to do. I want to be able to spend more time with the pipsqueaks.
As you should.
Yeah.
Limited time I've spent with them, I can't get enough. So
they're goofballs, man.
I got to hang out with them during Caleb's Heisman Trophy ceremony, and you know, Jessica had her hands full. Yeah, I was holding on to Declan, and you know, Mom was going off with Erlen to go do something, and my mom and I couldn't have had more fun. So
That's a good time.
I don't blame
thanks
you
for doing that. I appreciate it.
Oh, are you kidding? I feel like I should be paying you all to let me do it. They're just as precious as can be, but I'm probably biased. Well, one last question, because we do have, and you work with, you know, these young adults. So this question probably will be easy for you, but what advice would you give to people that are really looking to have that balance, that are looking to have abundance, feel like maybe culture is pulling them in one direction, or maybe family, and, you know, they're really trying to define for themselves what abundance means, how to create it more in their life? And if you don't have any advice, that's fine, but I think you might.
I might have some. I'm going to say perspective, and it's, you know, to me, it seems easy to say, like, here I am, I have a great full-time job, wonderful benefits. We're able to live within our means in a way where my wife doesn't have to work, so that we can have that flexibility in our life and what we're doing with the kids.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of privilege and abundance there.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to look at it and say, you know, just be content with what you have, because what do I have? I essentially have is I've set myself up in a way to not worry. You know, it's like, hey, do we want to go to Starbucks this morning? Should we take the kids out to dinner this Friday? We don't have to have those. Those aren't tough conversations, right? It's like, okay. It's like maybe around Christmas, it's like, hey, wait a minute, we're a little overkill here. But beyond that, it's, you know, we're okay there. So I think perspective is important, but I think it's important at any level, because I never felt growing up that we had any sort of lesser than in terms of means with my family and what we had going on. Like I said, we went up and we spent summers at my grandparents' house. And I said we went water skiing all the time. Well, what does all the time mean? That means we maybe went once a week, twice a week.
Yeah.
But in my memories, it was just this tremendous amount of time that we were out on the lake. But the truth is that a lot of those lake days, we may have been on the lake for 12 hours that day, but maybe only driving the boat around for 2 of those hours. Where the other 10 hours, it was just on the beach, swimming, chasing the dog, napping, playing. God, we played so much cribbage. That was the family card game, cribbage, rummy cube. Like, it was just a lot of time. Yeah. Just these long picnics. It was just a lot of nothing. But there were periods growing up where, you know, there was a big energy crisis in California and prices were out through the roof. So there was a good year or so in my youth where we were hanging up our clothes to dry.
Yeah.
And we weren't running the AC. And it's like, I think about these things. Was I mildly uncomfortable in those moments as a kid? Probably, but we had a pool, right? So it's like, if it's too hot and like classic 90s mom, it's like, if the house is too boring, go outside, get out of my hair, get out of here.
Yeah.
And so we had this life that I'm sure my parents were worrying about bills, we're doing whatever it was, but it never felt that way. And I think that comes from perspective and sort of knowing where you are and what you can accomplish within what you have. And I think a lot of times in our efforts to keep up with the Joneses, I know I feel this pressure too sometimes. It's like, okay, we gotta, you know, do things in this way, or God, I gotta go buy an RV because everyone else I know has an RV. It's like, I really want one, but do I need one? I don't. Yeah. And so it's understanding that, could I afford it? Maybe. Do I want it? Absolutely. Do I need it? No. My time, energy, effort, funds could be better spent in other ways. And so for me, it's perspective within the boundaries of what's capable for you in what you have going on. But I think also being willing to be understanding of other people and know folks' different situations. And I think not to say there's like a tiered system of life, but if you're at a level where you're at maybe a higher level of affluence than somebody you're spending time with, it's like, okay, how do we level set here?
Yeah.
Like, how can I make what I'm up to seem less bougie, less aristocracy, so that it doesn't feel like you're having to like really swing hard? Because we've all been in those scenarios. I certainly, especially around USC, like there's some very wealthy people that I rub elbows with.
Oh yeah.
I'm not in that world. I'm not buying shopping malls and selling Maseratis. Like that's not the world I'm in.
Yeah.
But I interact with people in these worlds, and sometimes they're very sometimes folks are very, approachable, and they have that understanding, that good perspective overall of their station and other folks' station. And sometimes they don't, and they're just caught where they are, and you're just trying to keep up. And not just here, I run into people like this throughout my whole life, but I guess that would be the advice is, if I'm giving sage financial advice, it's live within your means, and, but just, do what needs to be done. I said before I was, freelance teaching, I was working like crazy. I was driving around. I put on, I think 100,000 miles on my car every year for a couple of years, just driving to all the different gigs. But again, we didn't have kids. We were just cruising in this apartment. I wasn't the full-time band director here. So it's like, I wasn't gone every Saturday off on a road game or doing whatever else it was. So life was different. And, was it stressful? Sure. But I enjoyed it. And some of Jessica and I's favorite memories come from those years together, sort of doing that, and she had other hobbies that she was developing at the time. And this is when I got really into, listening to podcasts and talking to myself in the car and wondering if I'm going insane driving around. But yeah, I guess that's the advice I have is have perspective, but not perspective in the sense of like, just be grateful for what you have. It's like, just know where you are and try to understand, within that and work within it and help set yourself up for success in the areas you can. Try to control the things you can control.
So powerful. Really, really powerful. In a day and age where almost all of us are glued to our phones and comparing ourselves to other people, and getting the, we live in a great economy and great country, but there can be that rat race. It can be challenging to not have the perspective. So I love that. Dr. Vogel, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for spending time to record with us. Thank you for all the joy that you bring. I mean, I'm selfish, but to myself and my family, it's just, I can't wait for football season. I think we've got 48 days or something left, but who's counting?
Who's counting?
I know. But truly, I know how hard you and the students work, and the sacrifices Jessica, the first lady of USC, makes to allow you to do that. It's just so special. Thank you for being you and sharing all this wisdom. It means so much to us.
Well, thanks for having me on. This is cool. This is a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm always willing to talk about myself. So thanks for giving me the outlet. No, but it is fun. And, as a teacher, I like to give, advice or talk about things or just kind of look at, the perspective of the world. So this was a lot of fun to chat with.
Fantastic. Well, and a lot of people don't know that you all correct me if I'm wrong, but you all need donations to run and do what you all do.
We
right?
do. I mean, everybody does. Like, that's higher education. Yes. I think we all forget, like, even the football team, when you buy season tickets, you still make a donation, right?
Yes.
To the athletic fund.
Exactly.
But yeah, we the band, we are grateful to the support of the Trojan family to help get us where we need to go. But like anything else, we always need support. And so now I'm plugging. Here we go. We're doing it.
I opened the door. This is exactly what I want you to do.
But we have two pretty cool opportunities to support the band. That's exciting, engaging for folks out there. So Sunday, August 25th, down in Newport Coast, Steve Craig's home, we do this great fundraiser. So big shout out. Thank you, Steve Craig, for supporting us and hosting that event for us. But we've got a live auction. I'm going to be the auctioneer this year. We've got a silent auction, but that really goes in to support the travel fund, because this band, we are unique in that we go to all of the games. We send a contingent of the band to every single game. But I think the big thing, as we move into the Big Ten, these destinations are farther, the air costs are higher, and we are really trying to secure and stabilize the student experience, because it is a big draw. It's like, why if I'm at this top tier, tier 1 research institution, worked my butt off to get into school, why am I going to go and put in all this time to go do marching band of all things?
Right.
It's like, because you're going to get to see the country. You're going to go to Washington, D.C. You're going to go to, Ann Arbor. You're going to see the country at no cost to the student. And so in order to have it be no cost to the student, it has to be a cost to you, to everybody else. So if you can join us at that event, that's August 25th. You can find on the website, uscband.com. You can find information there. But then another fun opportunity is Labor Day weekend, our game against LSU. That's in Las Vegas. We're staying at the Palms Casino, the band is. So number one, you can stay in the hotel the band is staying in. Number two, if you book through our website, we get commission back on all the rooms we book through our website. So not only are you getting a nice rate on a room, you're getting to stay with the band, and part of those proceeds come back to the organization, which is huge, which is hugely impactful. There's other events, there's other opportunities within that Palm stay. But the other thing, you're saying, oh my gosh, the Palms, it's like a mile away from Allegiant. They have a free shuttle that's running all day long to get people to and from the game. You don't even have to worry about it. Just hop on with your clear bag for Allegiant, and then zoop, the Palms will shuttle you there. So it's really, we're doing a poolside rally. They're having a game watch party. So if you can't get tickets to the game, just stay at the pool. Stay by the pool. They're going to show the game on a giant TV. The whole side of the building, it's 60 feet tall, is a giant LED screen. They're going to have, they're going to put a picture of the drum major up there. It's going to be really cool.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
absolutely
cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And so it's a great opportunity. But if people are going to the game, you need to stay somewhere. So stay at the Palms. It's a cool storied casino. They just renovated it. It's beautiful. So stay there and support the band and enjoy Las Vegas.
Perfect. I just actually personally got that email sent out by you all, I think this morning. So I'll be booking myself. So I'll be in Vegas. I'll see you there. I'll see you August 25th at the event.
Love it. Thank you.
Dr. Vogel, fight on. We appreciate it so much. Yes, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks
you.
again, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
Ya.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Secrets to Abundant Living podcast. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights that will empower you on your journey towards abundance. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps others discover the secrets to an abundant life too. Stay connected with us on LinkedIn, Amy Silvis. Keep striving for your goals, nurturing your relationships, and embracing the adventure that is life. Until next time, we wish you an abundantly fulfilling day.